Last time the Southeast Gassers were in Knoxville, Tennessee, where super stock Jerry Dean continued his domination with his 4th event win against Randy Kiefer. Seagas saw Billy Wilson's Troublemaker drive to victory past Todd Oden's Double X. B-Gas saw Daniel Haynes in the Patriot Red Light and send Ted McKee and his Rocky Top Missile to victory. And finally in A-Gas, Leslie Horn drove the Chick Magnet to victory over Chase Howard. Are you ready for some more gasser action? Well, here we go. Welcome to the Southeast Gassers. I'm your host, Mike Narks, and this episode finds us with a hot one, literally and figuratively. We're in Union, South Carolina at Union Dragway. Union Dragway was built in 2001 and already feels like a track with a much deeper, richer history than that. Nestled among the beauty of South Carolina, this premier drag strip has the goods. And today, the Southeast Gassers prepare to beat their competitors and the heat. Let's throw it over to David Lancaster for round 1 of Superstock.
Zach Long in the Brass Monkey, going to be over there in the Quick Time Performance, left-hand side. Zach, the number 7 qualifier here today. He's going to take on the number 4 qualifier in the Mortgage Options lane. And that is Bryant Dalton Sr. of the Dalton Gang out of Sevierville, Tennessee. Bryant Dalton going to take it all the way right here and move on into round number 2. Zach Long just could not have enough horsepower to keep up right there in that matchup. Next up, number 1 qualifier, Randy Kiefer right here in the Spine Tingler. Be taking on Don Wilmot in the Quick Time Performance lane in the 66 Mustang Coupe. Randy Kiefer from the drop of the hammer to the turnout lane. He's going to take the win right there. So Kiefer moves on into round number 2. Third pair out, going to find Kim Haynes in the Quick Time Performance lane in the 64 Galaxy 500, the Bad Apple. He's going to be taking on Jerry Dean in the Mortgage Options lane. Jerry out of Lacey's Spring, Alabama in that little Chevy 2. Dean, the number 2 qualifier here today, and Haynes, the number 9 qualifier. They're being brought up to the beams to get ready to go in this first round matchup. Kim Haynes turns on the red light, so that disqualifies him, and Jerry Dean going to move on to the next round. So Kenny Phillips on a single here in the Street Legal in the Mortgage Options side. Dean Hall going to be unable to make the call, so a competition single it is right here for KJ Phillips. I'm sorry, Kenny Phillips. All right, Alan Lovelady right up here in the underdog in the 67 Camaro. Got an opponent. He's supposed to be racing Johnny Royals. Looks like he's coming on in. There you go. So Johnny coming on in. Johnny out of Griffin, Georgia. Hayden, Alabama, the place where Alan Lovelady calls home. Whoever wins this matchup right here going to get Jerry Dean in the second round. Johnny Royals gets there first, and a little bit of an upset as Alan Lovelady had a little bit of problem down track, but Johnny Royals comes through with the win right there.
So with round 1 of Superstock in the books, let's go see how Seagas handles this hot South Carolina track.
Here, gonna find Ernie Smith, the number 6 qualifier in the Saturday Night Special out of Spartanburg, South Carolina, taking on the number 17 qualifier, Gene Russell, in the Junkyard Dyno. Ernie Smith choosing the Quick Time Performance lane as he is the higher qualified car. Ernie Smith got a good launch that time when the ball, when it come down, it bounced a little bit, moved to the left. He drove it into Gray all the way to the win right there, putting Gene Russell out of competition.
Pretty strong first round right there. It laid down a good number. I think we got this thing going in the right direction today, so we're just going to keep on keeping on and see what happens. Move on to the second round and go from there.
Fire Seth Buff in the Gold Nugget out of Shelby, North Carolina, the 57 Nomad with the Gene Full Power underneath the hood sits in the Quick Time Performance on the left-hand side, and in the Mortgage Options lane is going to find the Inman, South Carolina racer Josh Pruitt Fairlane with the Dwayne Bush race engine underneath the hood for him. Too much Seth Buff right there as he took it and takes the win and moves on to round number 2.
All right, well, we've been slack this year. We've only raced one time. We made a transmission change, so we weren't really sure where we're going to be. I didn't even look at the slip yet. Hold on a second. 628, so we're picking up steadily. I had to race Youngblood, that's our buddy. But we come out with a W, so that's what matters.
Tim Hall in the Mortgage Options lane in his 67 Rambler. He'll be racing Doug Poston. Too much Tim Hall. That thing just like a rocket out of there as he looks like he is on a mission today. Almost identical elapsed time to his qualifying. Steve Davis from Monroe, North Carolina in the Speedy 3. Ben Helms in the Pucker time. Man, those guys were dead even at the 3:30 mark, and Steve Davis pulls it out on the big end by 3/100ths of a second. Fifth pair out, going to find Jesse Beaver out of Hagerstown, Maryland, over in the Quick Time Performance lane into the Voodoo Child. Number 4 qualifier in Brad Wimberly in that 62 Comet that he calls the Southern Sizzler, which sits over in the Mortgage Options lane. Wimberly taking the nod right there and getting the win light.
Well, that was actually tracked pretty slick. Worked around qualified, walked bad, stuck around, blew the tires off. That was the best pass so far of the day. So made some adjustments, things get a little better.
So the quick draw going to be in the Quick Time Performance lane over on the left-hand side where Diana Casto will be trying to knock off Robbie Walden. Walden, the number 15 qualifier out of the Atlanta, Georgia area in that 61 Impala with the mechanical fuel injection. Walden, third-generation racer, as you've heard me announce already. Grandson of the great Lamar Walden, Mr. 409. Diana Casto with another win light as she moves on, and she'll get Seth Buff in the next round.
I honestly, whenever I make a pass, I don't look at the ticket. I'm just going. If it feels good, I definitely don't look at it until I get back. When I get back, then I can see my reaction time. I can see that's for Dana. I judge by Dana's reaction. If it's a happy face when I hand you the time slip, then it's good. If it's not, then we go from there. But I don't do anything other than just watch for that first little twinkle and then go. That's it.
Jaron Purdue, the number 1 qualifier here today in the Stud Muffin, going to receive a bye in the first round by virtue of being that number 1 qualifier. He's going to go ahead and roll through the box and make a full pull right here and getting ready for try to get a lapse time to get lane choice over the next round. Another solid run by Purdue, putting forth the same numbers that he did in qualifying.
It felt pretty good. We're still learning, like I said. This is a big learning curve for us, but we're starting to get it figured out, making a few small adjustments here and there. I think we're done making adjustments for the evening, and just going to try to see what we can do in the following rounds.
8th pair out, going to find Dan Hogan, the number 10 qualifier in the Quick Time Performance lane in the Flat Out Falcon. He's going to go up against Ron Allison in Poppy's Toy 2. Allison out of Cookeville, Tennessee. All right, so Dan Hogan turns the red light on right there. So red means dead, and Ron Allison in his red car are going to move on to round number 2. Number 16 qualifier, Matt Helms in the Rowdy Reputation out of McConnell, South Carolina, the quick time performance lane. He's going to take on the number 7 qualifier, Alfred Adams out of Clover, South Carolina. Alfred Adams once again in that 55 Chevy out of Clover, South Carolina. Gene Fulk power plant under the hood for him. They make up the 9th pair out here. Helms floats it up to the moon and sees nothing but blue sky and clouds as Alfred Adams streaks away to the wind as he was able to keep it controlled and down the racetrack. Robbie Wallace, the number 20 qualifier in the quick time performance lane in that 55 Anglia called the Out of Control. He's out of Roxborough, North Carolina. He'll be racing the number 3 qualifier here today. The number 3 qualifier being Todd Oden in the Double X out of Birmingham, Alabama. The 1958 Delray that leads the points in C-Gas right now. Best elapsed time for the weekend for Todd Oden right there as he goes his best for the weekend. Gets right down there in the thick of things because this C-Gas is going to be tough today. But that puts Todd Oden right in the mix going to second round where he'll take on Ron Allison coming up. The 11th pair out finds the number 9 qualifier, Bill Wilson, sitting in the mortgage options lane in the 49 Studebaker truck. He's going to be taking on Heath Adams, the number 14 qualifier, in the Rusty Bullet, which sits in the quick time performance lane. Bill Wilson marches on to the victory here, and he'll move on to round number 2.
Done had to change another transmission, so we got her back going.
Holy moly.
It's eating transmission, but we're gonna try to get her back going. It's a little hot.
Here's your round 1 ladder of C-Gas. Let's keep it moving. David, give us a call on B-Gas.
The start there is Ken Rainwater out of Kimberly, Alabama in the quick time performance lane on the left hand side. In that car he calls the Renegade. You're going to find Kelvin Cannon and he calls the Loose Cannon. Monumental mistake by Ken Rainwater. He turns on the red light, so that means he's dead and out of competition. 7-4, you won't find a finer person around than Jimmy Huff. Something happened right there, so Art Copeland will have a competition single, and he'll take that competition single and move to round number 2. The 41 Willis Coupe right now of Michael Walters out of Rayford, North Carolina, going into that mortgage options water box on the right-hand side. And Greg Adams over there in the Hillbilly Hoodlum, he's going to be in the quick time performance lane. Winchester, Tennessee, where Greg Adams calls home. Rayford, North Carolina, once again, where we find Michael Walters from. Undoubtedly something amiss for Michael Walters on the start right there, but the car seems to go through the big end okay. But nonetheless, it looks like Greg Adams is going to move on to the next round. So, all right, 4th pair out, going to find the number 4 qualifier, Mike Blackwell, in the 1955 Thunderbird in the quick time performance lane. The Thunderstruck. He's going to be racing Jimmy Martin in the Ditch Digger, the number 15 qualifier, in the beautiful 55 sitting in the mortgage options lane. Mike Blackwell marching on to the win right there in the Thunderstruck. So good run for Mike Blackwell.
Well, it felt pretty good. I hadn't looked at my time yet, but I think I went pretty good. I'm not sure. I believe I made some adjustments on the car after qualifying, and I believe it helped it just a little bit. So we're feeling good right now.
Michael Oden has had some trouble today in qualifying. He is the number 17 qualifier, getting the number 2 qualifier here in Haynes. Solid run for Daniel Haynes as it took every bit of that run. Troy Leitner comes up next in the mortgage options lane. The number 7 qualifier out of Liberty, South Carolina, into 51 Henry J, the Shake and Bacon. Turns the red light on, does Bergner. So Troy Leitner gets the win right here as they streak down the racetrack, and a good number for Troy Leitner as he does so. Number 14 qualifier, Gary Smith in the Chicken Bone out of Leesville, South Carolina. He sits over there in the quick time performance lane in the 51 Henry J. He's going to be taking on Rick Varner, the dirt man out of Kannapolis, North Carolina, in his 1955 Chevy, which sits in the mortgage options side of the racetrack. So Rick Varner takes the win and moves on to round number 2.
Oh, that was pretty good. I hit the tree good, but I missed fourth gear 3 times now, so I think something's wrong with the transmission. I just yanked it in fourth and it wouldn't stay, but I pulled it back in, it went on through.
Once again, the number 18 qualifier, Eddie Hawkins in the Sum 2, sits over in the quick time performance lane. In the mortgage options lane sits the Lenore City, Tennessee racer, Ted McKee, our 23 world champion in B-Gas, and the number 1 qualifier here today. Right down Broadway, Ted McKee takes the win, moves on to the second round, where once again he'll have a bye. Last pair coming around the corner here in B-Gas, Gerard Milladantri, Suffolk, New York, going to be in that wicked one over in the quick time performance lane. He's made a good pass or 2 in that lane in practice last night and then in qualifying today. 94-inch wheelbase there for that 48 Anglia. Jason Roberts is going to be in the Carolina Moon over in the mortgage options lane in the 1949 Ford Deluxe. But an aerospace engineer is Gerard Milladantri behind the wheel of that wicked one right now in the quick time performance lane. Tell you, don't make a trip that far to go slow, and he's not going slow, folks, as he puts Jason Roberts out, and he moves on to the second round where he'll get Kelvin Cannon in the loose cannon. So Milladantri marches on to round number 2. And that'll do it for B-Gas, folks. We'll be ready to go into A-Gas in just a moment.
And here's how B-Gas is shaping up. Looks like Jimmy Huff in the Hoop-de-Coop broke, and Ken Rainwater in the Renegade went red. Let's see what other surprises this track has for us as we roll into A-Gas, David.
Calhoun, Georgia racer Ray Ballou in the Bad Alibi, the 1955 Ford. 466 cubic inches of big block Ford underneath the hood there. He's going to be in the quick time performance lane. And the chick magnet of Leslie Horn, the number 2 qualifier here today in that 55 Chevy, is going to be over in the mortgage option side. As the chick magnet and the Bad Alibi get ready to get it on here. Leslie Horn right down as he moves on to round number 2. Number 1 qualifier receiving a bye run by virtue of being that number 1 qualifier. That is Gabriel Burrell in the Southern Flyer, the 31 Ford Tudor with the John Causey power underneath the hoods of that thing. All right, Gabriel Burrell marches to the second round. That is Alan Pittman in the Pittman and Sword 41 Willis Coupe. He's taking on the number 5 qualifier in Boiling Springs, South Carolina racer Ben Christopher. Ben Christopher with a run right there. That's a good run for Ben. All right, number 3 qualifier, Kenneth Phillips in the Silver Streak 2. He's going to be in the mortgage option side in his 58 Corvette. Zach Hall going to be taking him on in the 1955 Chevy called the Homegrown. Zach, the number 12 qualifier here in A-Gas today. Blistering run right there for Phillips as he moves on to the next round. That is a good elapsed time. These A-Gas cars are absolutely moving, Jack. Bob Walden's going to be in that 33 Willis over there, the Strychnine. He's going to be taking on none other than Todd Blackwell. Blackwell, the number 9 qualifier, which is a little bit of a misnomer because that car is really strong. Todd Blackwell moves on to the next round. Here's Dean Jonas in the mortgage option side in the 66 Chevy 2 that he calls the Agent Orange. Then you got Quayne Stott in the 48 Anglia. Goodness gracious, Quayne Stott in a win right there. That was a very close race.
What a way to end out round 1 of A-Gas, with Quayne Stott taking out Dean Jonas in an amazing drag race. As the track temp continues to rise, so does the competition. Let's hear David's call of round 2 of Superstock.
Brian Dalton Sr., who's going to be over in the quick time performance lane in his Falcon Futura that he calls the Dalton game. Kenny Phillips going to be in the mortgage options lane in the street legal. Classic Ford versus Chevy matchup right here. Ford in the quick time performance lane. Chevy going to be over there in the mortgage options lane. Kenny Phillips takes the win right there in the street legal. So he'll move on into the semifinals of Superstock where he's going to take on Randy Kiefer in the next matchup in semifinals. All right, so Jerry Dean right here going to have a competition single as Johnny Royals unable to make the call. He's had a malfunction. Sits in the mortgage option side right here. He's going to make a run. Looks like he's going to make a run to try to get elapsed time to get lane choice in his next matchup. Good thing about having a competition single, if things go wrong, you can just push your clutch in and let it coast on through as Jerry Dean just did right there. And hey, he had a competition single here with nobody showing up. That could have been a time that somebody could have knocked him off. And Randy Kiefer, the number 1 qualifier here today out of Cookeville, Tennessee, in his Pontiac Chieftain, he's going to go over to the quick time performance lane, and he will take a bye run here by virtue of being that number 1 qualifier. All right, so Randy Kiefer moves it on through as we get ready to move to C-Gas.
Here are your matchups for the semifinals of Superstock. David, let's see round 2 of C-Gas.
All right, Steve Davis, the number 11 qualifier, going to be in the quick time performance lane. Number 1 qualifier, Jaron Purdue, as the opponent for Steve Davis. He is trying to shave it razor thin on the tree, and the red light caught him. And Jaron Purdue marches on to round number 3. Third matchup right here in this C-Gas. Going to find the man that's number 1 in points right now. That is Todd Oden out of Birmingham, Alabama. Ron Allison in the quick time performance lane over here, the 78-year-old out of Cookeville, Tennessee, in Poppy's Toy 2. Todd Oden absolutely shaving the tree down. Todd Oden puts a number up right there, folks. He'll be proud of that one. Seth Buff, he's out of Shelby, North Carolina in the Gold Nugget. Diana Casto going to be in the mortgage options lane in that Falcon out of West Virginia. Seth Buff, big win right there as he puts Diana Casto on the trailer. Ernie Smith right here. Ernie Smith going to be in the quick time performance lane on the left-hand side where he won in round number 1. Alfred Adams out of Clover, South Carolina with Gene Foot Power underneath the hood. Ernie Smith moves to round number 3 with a good run, but that is a really good run for Ernie Smith. Brad Wimberly takes the win right there. So
after a chaotic round 2, damn it, Bob had some issues getting off the starting line, and Steve Davis got the red light. Here's your matchups for round 3 in C-Gas. Okay, no time to slow down. David, give us round 2 of B-Gas.
All right, first pair out, going to find Art Copeland in the quick time performance lane on the left side in that Barracuda. He's going to go down the track alongside Daniel Haynes in the mortgage options lane in that beautiful Patriot Falcon. Daniel Haynes start to finish right there, clean as a cucumber as he takes the win right there. Greg Adams in the Hillbilly Hoodlum going to be in the quick time performance lane on the left side in his 1960 Falcon. He's going to be racing the dirt man Rick Varner out of Kannapolis, North Carolina in his 55 Chevy with the Jeff Taylor Performance underneath the hood. Wheels up for Varner right there as he leaves on him in a big way. So Rick Varner moves on. All right, Mike Blackwell, the number 4 qualifier here today in the Thunderstruck, the 1955 Thunderbird. Troy Leitner going to be in the mortgage options side out of Liberty, South Carolina. These are a couple of wily old veterans right here. These guys aren't any spring chickens, as you might say, but good racers in themselves. So Mike Blackwell takes the win right there. All right, Gerard Milladantri here in the quick time performance lane in that 48 Anglia, the Wicked One, trying to move on into uncharted territory for him in the 3rd round. And Kelvin Cannon out of Elizabethton, Tennessee in the loose cannon sits over the mortgage options side. Milladantri moves on where he'll take on Blackwell in the next round. Ted McKee, the number 1 qualifier here today, he gets a bye run for his efforts by judging by the burnout that he made right there. He's going to make a full hit right here and try for elapsed time so he can get lane choice in the next round. Ted McKee tied right now for the lead in points, the number 1 qualifier here today and the defending world champion. He's got all the trifecta going for him.
And here are your matchups for round 3 of B-Gas. Let's watch round 2 of A-Gas.
Leslie Horn, number 2 qualifier here today in the Chick Magnet. He gets a bye run right here by virtue of being the number 2 qualifier. He's going to take on the winner of the Kenneth Phillips and Todd Blackwell matchup that's coming up here in the 2nd round. All right, Quayne Stott coming up next right here. He's going to be racing Gabriel Burrell's cousins going at it right here against each other. Gabriel Burrell, the number 1 qualifier here in the Southern Flyer. He'll be in the mortgage options side, and Quayne Stott going to be in the quick time performance side. Quayne was our winner at our Kilcare Dragway race in Xenia, Ohio a little earlier this year. Gabriel Burrell, man, in a good race right there. Burrell took the win Next matchup going to find in the quick time performance lane. That is Chase Howard. Ben Christopher sits in the mortgage options lane. Ben Christopher gets there first. That car launched really well. Then it got out there in second gear, started applying some real horsepower, and man, that thing was washing around. But Ben Christopher doing a great driving job right there. All right, big time matchup right here in the quick time performance lane. You're going to find Todd Blackwell in that 1965 Chevy 2 right there for the 1958 Corvette of Kenneth Phillips, which sits in the mortgage options side. The Silver Streak 2. Phillips, a former world champion, just like Blackwell is. Todd Blackwell knocking off Kenneth Phillips right there in a big, that's a little mini upset right there. Kenneth Phillips got out there about the 330-foot mark. That car took a hard right on him, and he had to correct it, so that might have been just enough.
Round 2 of A-Gas is in the history books, and it looks like we will have an exciting semifinal. But first, let's get into round 3 of C-Gas.
Todd Oden out of Birmingham, Alabama in that 58 Delray, the Double X. He's going to be in the mortgage option side. He was the number 3 qualifier here today. Brad Wimberly out of the Atlanta, Georgia area, the number 4 qualifier. So the 3-4 matchup right here, they find themselves in a position to go to the final. Todd Oden takes the win right there. 0.05 of a second was the margin of victory at the stripe.
That was too close for comfort. I could see the words on his fender the whole entire run. And I'm looking at him, not even watching my RPMs, because I'm like, oh Lord, oh no. And then luckily we kept enough speed up to stay in front. I was off a little bit that time. I don't know if maybe I missed my shift point watching his fender.
Tim Hall going to be in the mortgage options lane out of Abbeville, South Carolina. He is our 2-time and defending world champion in C-Gas. He was the number 2 qualifier here today in his 67 Rambler that he calls the Scalded Dog. He's going to be taking on the guy in the quick time performance lane. That is Seth Buff in the Gold Nugget, that 1957 Nomad with the Gene Fulton power underneath the hood. Tim Hall with a starting line advantage, and that is going to be all it takes as Tim Hall puts Seth Buff on the trailer right here and moves into the semifinal.
Well, it's still being a bracket car. I wanted to speed up every round, and it's still wanting to run that same old number. Got to figure something out. We got to get a little faster.
All right, third pair out right here. A monumental task right here for Ernie Smith out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. He's going to be in the quick time performance left lane in his Saturday night special. Heather Peak helping out Jared Purdue right here in the stud muffin that sits in the mortgage options lane. As Purdue was dead late at the tree, Ernie Smith with a 0.77 reaction time.
We got our program going in the right direction. It took a long time. It took a lot of work from Brian Harrison. Tony Wright, a lot of people, more people than I can think. But hey, we're making rounds today. We're going to the semifinals. Old Hot Rod's working.
And there's your matchups for the semis of C-Gas. Here's David Lancaster with the call for round 3 of B-Gas.
All right, Daniel Haynes right here in the Patriot out of Holly Springs, South Carolina. He has a bye run here by virtue of being the number 2 qualifier. Looks like he's not doing a burnout. He's just going to ease through the light right here. Mike Blackwell in the Thunderstruck, that 1955 Thunderbird. He's going to be over in the mortgage options lane, a lane that he's not been in a lot today. And Gerard Milladantri is going to be his opponent, and he'll be in the quick time performance lane. And this is a lane that Milladantri has favored all day. Key gas matchup right here, folks. This ought to be a good drag race. Blackwell ends the day for Gerard Milladantri right here. Third pair out right here, Ted McKee, the number 1 qualifier here today. He sits in the Mortgage Options right-hand lane in the Rocky Top Missile. He's going to be taking on the dirt man, Rick Varner, out of Kannapolis, North Carolina, in his 55 Chevy. Ted McKee gets the win right there.
There's your B-Gas semis. Mike Blackwell gets himself a bye run, and Ted McKee finds himself up against Daniel Haynes again in the semifinals. It's been a tough day at Union Dragway with ambient temperatures reaching 98 degrees and track temperatures hovering around 135. Here's a man that has been talking to the movers and shakers in drag racing since 1996, WFO Joe Costello of WFO Radio, to talk about track temperatures.
When it comes to drag racing, every detail matters, especially the track temperature. But what happens when the track temperature reaches a scorching 135 degrees Fahrenheit? It becomes a much more dangerous game. At 135 degrees, the track surface becomes tremendously slick and unpredictable. The extreme heat softens the rubber laid down by the tires, creating a slippery and greasy surface. Instead of providing traction and grip, it makes it much more difficult for the cars to hook up and launch effectively. That's why teams and officials are constantly monitoring track temperature. When it's too hot, they adjust their strategies, including tire pressure and engine tune, to compensate. Racing is about speed and control. When track temperatures reach 135 degrees, safety is exactly what's at stake. Stay safe, gassers, stay fast, and respect the heat. For WFO Radio, I'm Joe Costello.
Thank you, Joe. You can watch WFO Radio on Wednesday nights on PowerTube TV. Now, on to the semis of Superstock.
Kenny Phillips going to be in the quick time performance lane on the left side here. Randy Kiefer going to be in that big Pontiac Chieftain. He'll be in the Mortgage Options side, right-hand lane. Winner of this one's going to get Jerry Dean in the final. Randy Kiefer takes the win right there. Randy Kiefer, who's going to move on to the finals. Jerry Dean going to be in the quick time performance lane over here, as he is going to try to make a run for a lap time, so he'll have lane choice. He has won every race this year, every round of racing in the Superstock category in 2024 with the Southeast Gas. Is today going to be the day that he gets knocked off by Randy Kiefer?
Place your bets now. Randy Kiefer against Jerry Dean in the finals. It's something we've seen several times this year. Now, on to the semis of Seagas.
So Tim Hall going to be in the Mortgage Options side in that 67 Rambler. I'm going to put Ernie Smith in the familiar lane that he has been in all day. Ernie Smith, you saw him take out Jaron Purdue earlier in the stud muffin with an incredible reaction time. Tim Hall, our two-time and defending world champion in the Scalded Dog Rambler, going to make a monumental task right here for Ernie Smith to try to beat him. But if he can, Ernie Smith will make it to his first final in a long time. And the day comes to an end for Ernie Smith. It's like something happened mechanically in the Saturday night special right there. So Tim Hall moves to a final. The left up is Todd Oden on a bye run right here. Oden flicks it off a little early right there. He will not have lane choice in the finals, but that'll make for a great matchup. Tim Hall versus Todd Oden.
Tim Hall or Todd Oden? I wouldn't want to make that bet against the winner. David, give us B-Gas semifinals.
All right, folks, this is what I paid admission to see. Not really, but I would pay to see it. Daniel Haynes and Ted McKee, the two guys that are locked in a points battle right now, even right there at the top. One's a Ford, one's a Chevrolet. The Patriot of Daniel Haynes, Ted McKee, the Rocky Top Missile. He's been the number 1 qualifier today. Daniel Haynes, the number 2 qualifier. Daniel Haynes takes the win. Good race right there, folks. 6 thousandths of a second margin of victory for Daniel Haynes and the Patriot. Mike Blackwell out of Campbell, South Carolina, got that G-Bolt power underneath the hood of that 55 Thunderstruck Thunderbird as he sits in the quick time performance lane. Mike Blackwell is not going to achieve lane choice.
Okay, it's Daniel Haynes in the Patriot against Mike Blackwell in Thunderstruck. David, show us our A-Gas semifinals.
There's our defending world champion, Gabriel Burrow, in the Southern Flyer, that 31 Ford Tudor. He's going to be up against Ben Christopher out of Boiling Springs, South Carolina, in his 66 Chevy 2. Quick time performance lane, Ben Christopher. Mortgage options lane, Gabriel Burrow. They get ready to go right here to see who will make it to the final. Gabriel Burrow out in the gray area and brings it back, and Ben Christopher takes the win. Todd Blackwell in the Chevy 2, 1965 Chevy 2 Slingshot. He sits on the left-hand side in the quick time performance lane. He's going to be taking on Leslie Horn in the mortgage options lane. Todd Blackwell with a good lead. He gets loose out about mid-track. Leslie Horn shaking around, and Todd Blackwell takes the win.
So it's either going to be Ben Christopher in Happy Days or Todd Blackwell in the Slingshot for all the marbles at Union Dragway. Even with the weather conditions, it's been amazing racing today. Let's get to our Super Stock final.
Number one qualifier, Randy Kiefer right here in the Spine Tingler. That big Pontiac Chieftain, he is over in the quick time performance lane with that 406 cubic inch Butler performance motor. Jerry Dean threw the water box in his burnout, so is Randy Kiefer. Kiefer electing for a little shorter burnout right there. Once again, these guys are on that 7-inch spec tire for the SEC. And Jerry Dean continues his winning ways right here. Jerry Dean drove around him and remains undefeated so far in the Southeast Gassers in 2024.
Today was pretty rough for us. We had trouble getting down the racetrack all day long. And we knew my good friend Randy Kiefer was pretty fast, and so we took a swing at some things and left our leave RPM down some, and it just worked out. Closest race I've ever been in my life. I think neither one of us knew who won it down there. It just is that close.
I think it's official to finally say you are dominating this year. You're having a really good run.
Well, we've been very fortunate. I got a good crew: Karen Mitchell, David Richardson, Dennis Mitchell, David Dean, and Buck Rogers. They do an awful lot. I just get lucky enough to drive the car. And, you know, I want to thank Roby Myrick at G-Force. I want to thank the Ram Clutch people. They're super good to us. And One Way Technologies, they got some very, very good parts. And can't complain about none of it. It's all been good to us.
Well, thanks for a great year so far.
Yeah.
Good luck in Kentucky.
Well,
I think
yeah, you know, we've been fortunate in this, and we've raced long enough to know it's not going to last. There's somebody, you know, but we're lucky to keep winning, and that's what it's about. But we're realistic. We know it can't go on forever. So, you know, we'll take it when it comes.
Congratulations to Jerry Dean. He's enjoying the role he is on. Wow, I can't believe how many times he's won.
The 58 Del Rey versus the 67 Rambler in another matchup of Seagas Giants. Tim Hall with lane choice right here in this matchup in his 67 Rambler. He has chosen the mortgage options side for the Scalded Dog, putting the double X of Todd Odens over in the quick time performance lane on the left-hand side. Tim Hall trying to win his first race of the year. Todd Oden trying to win his third. Todd Oden takes the win right there as he just out-ETs him as Tim Hall had to brake on him on the starting line. And Todd Oden drove around him and just out-ET'd him right there for the win.
Today was a challenge. It started off, you know, with all the heat that we had and just trying to make rounds, and had our share of difficulties. But, you know, for the most part, it was a really, really good day. We were solid, made a couple of really good, strong passes. Then we broke a transmission right before the finals, which is usually catastrophic. But with the guys that come with us. I mean, John and Joey and then Ken Rainwater jumped in to help us. We were able to get it done, and we got to win. And I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it really is amazing how things can fall your way sometimes.
And you're in a tough class.
I am, because I'm going to tell you these heavy cars, these 10 pounds per cubic inch, they eat parts alive. I should be the national parts tester for most all these companies. But I've got to say, dependability, that's number one. And this one-way engine that I've got right now, it's amazing. The horsepower, how even it is. And then to have ram clutches on board, they do great. My car just works so great. G-Force, even though I broke a transmission, you can't say anything bad about G-Force because those transmissions are strong as death. I mean, goodness gracious. If I had some junky transmission in here, there's no way we could make a pass. I'm thankful for G-Force. Roby does such a great job.
And we can't race at this level without the sponsors.
No, absolutely not. And everybody that comes to these Southeast Gassers, they have top-notch equipment and top-notch people, and it's such a pleasure to race in this organization.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and I want to come back here again and again.
How about that C-Gas final, David? This year, he's no stranger to the winner's circle, Todd Oden. And hey, sponsors, he's available to be a national parts tester if you need one. Here comes your B-Gas final.
Moving on to B now, where Mike Blackwell and Daniel Haynes will be the next two down. Mike Blackwell are going over to the quick time performance lane, and Daniel Haynes with lane choice is going to choose the mortgage option side on the right in that patriotic Patriot car. And Daniel Haynes takes the win right there. That is a good drag race right there. 9/100ths of a second, the margin of victory at the stripe right there for Daniel Haynes as he takes another win here and making it a multiple-time winner.
Oh, man. Today we have worked. We earned every inch of this day. We figured out after qualifying number 2 that we had a valve issue. We really thought about just ending our day right there. Decided to go and push on and risk it, and it got through the day, and it won the day.
So what do you do now? We're down in Kentucky.
Fix it. Fix my broken engine.
Oh, congratulations.
Daniel Haynes in the Patriot wins. Congratulations, you giant killer. What a great race. David, give us our last race of the night, the A-Gas Finals.
All right, Todd Blackwell in the slingshot, going to choose the mortgage options lane, putting Ben Christopher over in the quick time performance lane out of Boiling Springs, South Carolina in the Happy Days. Both of these drivers from Spartanburg County, some two-par race engines right here on the line as they get ready to go to battle here to see who wins the A-Gas category here today at Union County Dragway. Both cars get a little sachet in it, about 3/4 track, but Todd Blackwell gets there first. So Todd Blackwell in the slingshot takes the win here. Ben Christopher going to run her up, but a great race right there.
Well, that's a mouthful. Started out, I couldn't get this car to do nothing. And qualify. I don't even know where I qualified at. I was so disgusted with the way it was running. And we just kept working on it, But if you'd have told me this morning that I'd been here tonight, I'd probably laughed at you. That's how bad it was this morning. And normally when qualifying, I'm always in the top 5. But today, like I said, I don't even know where I was. I didn't even go look, but I know that it was way back there. And just kept making round after round and making little changes here and there, and kept getting a little bit better, and had enough to make it.
Yeah, but you're in a class where every guy could be down, but they are never out, right? So to win in A that's an accomplishment, right?
It's definitely an accomplishment, yep.
Especially today with the track being so greasy, right? And then you said you fight the car. When did it feel like it turned for you, where you're like, hey, you know what? I might actually go all the way today?
I don't know that there was a turning point. My ETs was, I mean, we was all pretty close. I mean, one time this guy was faster. The next round he had all over the track and he had a bad run, and then I would do the same thing. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess I could say it was probably anybody's day. I was talking to Leslie a little bit earlier, and it wasn't which one of us done the best, it's which one of us did the worst that actually lost. So, it's been a long time since I've been here, and again, didn't think it was going to happen today.
You know, at some point we're going to have to do something on the backup girls because they take that very serious. And it's a hard job, and they're doing it in heels, right?
Yeah, they're doing it in the heels, and they're out there on that 150 degrees a day, the track?
Yes, sir.
You know, so they're sitting there, I mean, they're fighting the heat just like we are, and so, yeah, they do a great job.
Well, congratulations, and we'll see you in Kentucky.
I appreciate it.
What a great victory for Todd Blackwell and all the winners today. As always, because of our sponsors, the dedicated Southeast Gassers Association crew, and the racers, we, the audience, wins. That's it for another bit of Southeast Gasser Association Racing. For PowerTube TV, I'm your host, Mike Narks. We'll see you next time.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.